They are now sitting just one seat short of a majority, and the governing side is very deliberately letting the idea of more floor crossings hang in the air. It is not an accident. When reporters pressed the energy minister about his role in persuading a former conservative member to switch sides and whether more defections might be coming, the answer was framed very carefully. He leaned into a shared identity, describing himself, the prime minister, and the recent defector as practical people with business backgrounds, the kind who make decisions based on results rather than ideology. When asked directly whether others might follow, he did not confirm anything concrete, but he did say he was receiving plenty of interest. That single line did a lot of work. It signaled confidence, it unsettled the opposition, and it kept the story alive without committing to specifics. Welcome to Political Plot, where we cut through the noise to reveal the power plays shaping American politics. Today we are diving into how power in politics is often shaped less by elections alone and more by perception, timing, and internal loyalty, where defections, leadership style, and strategic signaling can quietly reshape the balance of control. It is a look at how governing and opposition parties navigate pressure, ambition, and survival when momentum starts to shift behind closed doors. On the other side, the conservative leader was asked whether these defections reflected a problem with his leadership. His response was to flip the accusation entirely, arguing that the real issue was the prime minister attempting to manufacture a majority through behind-the-scenes maneuvering rather than earning it at the ballot box. He framed it as a rejection by voters of a costly majority and warned that trying to secure one through deals would lead to higher taxes and deficits. The message was blunt. If the government wants full control, it should ask voters directly, not piece it together through what he characterized as political games. To unpack what was really going on beneath the surface, a panel of seasoned strategists weighed in. One of them argued that the conservative leader's response simply did not land. The members leaving the caucus had already pointed to leadership concerns as a reason for their departure, so deflecting blame onto the prime minister felt disconnected from reality. According to this view, no amount of spin would change the fact that people were walking away. A more effective approach, they suggested, would have been to lean into conviction, to say openly that he is a principled politician who will not dilute his beliefs just to keep everyone on side. That stance might alienate some, but at least it would be coherent and believable. Trying to redirect responsibility to political opponents only made him look evasive and weakened his position further. The discussion then shifted to why members of the conservative caucus might be rethinking their futures. One argument was that internal dynamics matter more than public messaging. The leader is not widely seen as warm or engaging in private interactions, which makes caucus life less appealing. On top of that, members are often expected to stick rigidly to talking points, to project constant outrage, and to avoid constructive engagement. For many, that is exhausting and limiting. Perhaps most importantly, a significant number of MPs entered politics believing they would soon be part of a governing party. When that expectation collapses, and when the path back to power looks uncertain under the current leadership, personal calculations begin to change. Add to that the fact that senior figures on the government side are openly suggesting more defections could be coming, and it creates a deeply unsettling atmosphere for the opposition. From there, the conversation turned to whether the government was simply provoking and destabilizing its rivals, or whether there was genuine momentum behind the scenes. The answer was likely both. Floating the idea of additional interest serves multiple purposes. It rattles the opposition, it projects inevitability, and it sends a message to potential defectors that the door is open. When a single additional seat could tip the balance into a majority, there is little incentive for the government to ease off. Every hint, every carefully worded comment keeps pressure on the other side and reinforces the narrative that power is slowly consolidating. That dynamic leaves the opposition leader in an uncomfortable position. He is trying to position his party as a credible alternative government while simultaneously dealing with the aftermath of an unexpected loss and internal doubts about his leadership. Being a long-term opposition leader feels very different to being a prime minister in waiting, and caucus members respond differently when the aura of inevitability fades. The calculus inside the party changes dramatically once winning no longer feels assured. Attention then returned to the Conservative leader's future. Polls suggest the parties remain closely matched, but his personal standing has declined. He has gone from being seen as inevitable to being defeated twice, with defections adding to the sense of vulnerability. Looking ahead to an upcoming leadership review, one analyst predicted that while he is likely to survive that internal vote, his prospects beyond it are far less certain. The deeper problem is not a single misstep, but his fundamental style and character, which may be difficult to alter convincingly. If public opinion continues to favor the Prime Minister's leadership, that contrast alone could be decisive in the next campaign. Eventually, the caucus may conclude that change is necessary. Another strategist agreed, emphasizing that while the party membership may endorse him in the short term, the caucus ultimately holds the decisive power over his fate. How he manages relationships internally, how he listens, and whether colleagues feel he can lead them to victory will matter more than rhetoric aimed at the base. Winning a leadership review is not the same as winning an election, and those are two very different tests. If he cannot persuade his own team that he is capable of crossing that final threshold, his position will remain precarious. What emerges from all of this is a picture of politics not as a single dramatic moment, but as a slow accumulation of pressure, perception, and internal calculation. Floor crossings are not just about numbers, they are signals, psychological blows, and tests of leadership. Whether they ultimately reshape the landscape or fade into the background will depend less on the mechanics of parliamentary arithmetic and more on how convincingly each side tells its story, manages its people, and adapts to a rapidly shifting environment.